Hi, this is Yaffi Lvova, registered dietitian nutritionist with Baby Bloom Nutrition. And today we're going to talk about soy. It's a really controversial topic, especially for parents with babies who may or may not be on formula or a woman who's breastfeeding and suspects some food intolerances. And it's a controversial issue overall and gaining more controversy with some recent fad diets such as the Whole30 and the paleo diet, which eliminate beans. Okay, that's better. And my cat made an entrance. Okay, you can't talk about soy as a whole. There are different ways to talk about soy. Soy comes in processed and unprocessed forms. It comes as a whole plant. It comes as an additive in food products. And these are all different. They're all going to have different nutritional implications. So first, I want to talk about when I'm talking about unprocessed soy, I'm talking about edamame. That's the pure form of soy. But minimally processed, you also have tofu, soy milk, tempeh, miso, and natto, which are all they're all pure forms of soy. Tofu technically is soy cheese. They basically use the same process that you use to make cheese from dairy. You use to make tofu from soy milk. These are straight sources. When you're talking about soy protein isolate, which is often a filler in a lot of foods, you're talking about different forms of soy that are just found. They're completely ubiquitous in our diet. They're everywhere, especially in the United States, where soy is used as a rotation crop with corn, and we just have so much of it, they put it in everything. That is not a pure form of soy. It's very processed, and that has different nutrition implications than the pure, unprocessed, or minimally processed soy products that I mentioned. The main concern with soy that a lot of parents have is the hormone effect, the phytoestrogens. We're told that soy has a lot of estrogen. Well, what they're talking about is phytoestrogens. It's a nutrient that kind of mimics estrogen, and it binds with the same receptors that estrogen uses, both the alpha and beta receptors throughout the body. And there is concern that that could have cancer implications, but it has been shown to have both positive and negative benefits. The problem with the studies about soy is that a lot of them are very small sample studies. A lot of them are retroactive studies. Oh, you have cancer. Let's talk about what you've been doing in your life up until now. That form of study kind of negates other lifestyle choices that the person has made, other factors that may be involved in their disease process. And it's not ethical to conduct a large study where we induce cancer in people and see the effect, the protective or the curative effect of soy. We can't do that. It's not ethical. It's interesting, in the earlier 1900s, a lot of research was done on prisoners. Not that research, but a lot of our RDA, what we know, you need this amount of calcium, you need this amount of vitamin C, for example. That research was all done in prisoners in exchange for a lighter sentence. And that's not seen as ethical now either. We have a lot of limitations when it comes to this type of study. So the phytoestrogen, the problem is really with your more concentrated processed soy and the fact that it's a filler in all of your food. You're not going to have that problem with edamame, with tofu, with soy milk, with tempeh, with miso, with natto. These are problems that are really specific to the soy protein isolate and other types of processed foods. And it is everywhere. If you look in so many of your processed foods, it's just hidden in there. There's also the GMO issue. No matter where you fall with that, we don't really have a lot of long-term studies because it hasn't been around for long enough in order to have the results of those studies. 90% of the soy grown in the United States is genetically modified. 85% of the genetically modified soy is given to animals. And that could have its own effect down the line when you're eating those animals that have had the modified soy products. The problem is that not only are we concerned with the actual modification of the DNA of the plant, which the research is really, there's research everywhere. I personally, as a professional and as a mother, I just think that when you go into a plant and change the DNA of the actual structure, I have concerns about that because that's not how the plant naturally evolved. But they are genetically modified so that they can withstand intense herbicide and pesticide spray, which means that when you get that product, if you're not getting a GMO-free product, you are getting a lot of herbicides and pesticides. Some of those are going to wash off, some of them are going to penetrate, depending on the type of soy you're having. So I prefer to use only organic soy products when I do use soy, and I do. It's when you have something that's organic, it's not genetically modified. And I'm sure down the line we will have research on that, but for now it's not going to be harmful for me and my family to avoid those genetically modified products. As far as the benefits of soy, soy is known to have high calcium, which is really important if you have a child or a different family member who can't have dairy. So high in calcium, iron, magnesium, manganese, phosphorus, potassium, almost all of the B vitamins, vitamin C, and zinc. And a lot of those help with immunity. Hi, Shayna. A lot of those help with immunity. And it's the best study that we have is to really look at a population that has had a lot of soy for thousands of years. And I'm talking about Asia in general. Soy is a huge part of their diet, and it has been for a very long time in the more pure forms. You haven't had thousands of years of people having soy protein isolate in Asia, but you have had tofu and the other forms as well. And what we see is in Asia, where in places like Okinawa, where the traditional diet is still followed more closely, you have lower incidences of cardiac disease, hypertension, stroke, hormone-dependent cancers such as breast cancer and colon cancer, osteoporosis, hip fracture, diabetes, and obesity. And also what we notice is that as those Asian countries shift to a more Western diet, they start having the same problems that Westerners have. They start having a higher incidence of the cardiac problems, the heart problems in general, the hormone-dependent cancers, obesity, diabetes. And that tells us a lot. You can't you can never really say cause and effect with this stuff, but you can also say, well, for thousands of years they've been on this diet and it caused an effect in their bodies this way. And now that they've changed to a more Western diet, now we're seeing these effects. It's strong enough for me. So the problem that a lot of parents experience is when they start having a baby who has colic or gas, fussiness, eczema. Soy is one of the top allergens. And often when you eliminate dairy, which is, hi Jenny, sorry it's not working for you. When you eliminate dairy, there's a major shift to soy, and that soy is very processed. Also, 40% of kids who can't tolerate dairy also can't tolerate soy. So we have that problem as well, and you end up on an elemental formula, or you have a woman who wants to breastfeed and eliminates dairy and then eliminates soy, and then going down the line eliminates eggs and gluten. And we get into a problem where she has trouble maintaining her own health because she eliminated a lot. And at that point, you really need to seek some guidance from a professional. That's something that I do in my practice, is to help people with elimination diets. So now to move on to the bad rap for beans in general, and also nuts are included in this. And this is a really big fad right now, where people are eliminating beans and nuts from their diets, largely because of lectin and phytic acid. So I'm going to give you the down low on this. Lectin is common in raw beans, in grains, and in nuts. And it's said to cause insulin resistance by having a negative effect with leptin, with a P, not lectin with a C. They have an interchange. And that it harms intestines as well. Well, lectin is in everything, not just in beans, grains, and nuts. It's rendered harmless by cooking. We don't usually eat raw beans. Usually our beans are cooked. If you're having canned beans, the canning process is a really intense cooking process. If you're buying dry beans and you're boiling them, that's cooking, that's rendering this lectin pretty harmless. And there are some ways that we eat lectin and it's active. For instance, carrots, apples, bananas, pumpkin seeds, certain other seeds, peanuts. If you have roasted peanuts, those lectins are probably still active. And the thing is that those active lectins break down cancer cells, viral cells, and bacterial cells. They have been proven to be positive. It has a positive effect. So moving on to phytic acid. Phytic acid, also called phytate, binds nutrients. For instance, if you have spinach, which has high phytic acid, which you'll also notice is not a bean or a nut or a grain, what you want to do is it's better to have it steamed. It's better to have it cooked in some way, paired in some way with some vitamin C, some orange juice, for example, or some just orange, because I'm not really a juice person. Phytic acid is broken down by cooking. A varied diet also negates the possible harm of phytates. Other ways to break down phytates: cooking, sprouting, fermenting, or soaking. And food pairing, as I mentioned. High vitamin C foods, peppers, tomatoes, strawberries, kiwis, oranges, all foods that are high in vitamin C. And when paired with foods with high phytic acid, it's going to help break down that phytic acid to release certain nutrients such as iron, magnesium, and zinc. So the general rule with lectin and phytic acid is phytic acid isn't great for you, but it's easy to break down. And with a varied diet, it becomes a non-issue. When you have a diet that has a variety of different nutrients, the phytic acid that you get from beans, nuts, and grains is not an issue anymore. Your diet makes up for any possible downfall. For lectin, a little bit can be a good thing, breaking down the walls of cancer cells, viral cells, and bacterial cells. A lot of it is not a good thing, but that's with so many different types of nutrients. The end point with that is micromanaging your nutrients is counterproductive. As always, you want to have a varied diet, lots of different types of fruits and vegetables, some meat here and there. I really like what Michael Pollan said: eat food, not too much, mostly plants. And that really, it always comes back to that, and that's the issue with soy. Stay with the pure whole food forms. So you can, if you follow me on Instagram, which of course you should, you'll see that at most breakfasts, I serve a handful of nuts with it. It rounds out the meal, it increases the fiber, the protein, and the anti-inflammatory fats. And I think that it's overall a wonderful part of the diet. I think nuts are easy to grab and eat. I think that soy, when it's in its pure and natural form, is a benefit. It has a lot of nutrients, and you just have to do your best to stay away from soy in its super processed form, which can take a lot of concentration and a lot of effort in our society today, especially in America. So I don't have any questions yet. Anyone watching have any questions? No? Okay. Well, you can still comment after the fact, and you can still follow me on Instagram and see my nutty breakfasts. And you can also follow my page on Facebook and Twitter, which I need to get better at. And let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.